so many customers in the room, and you guys hear from us all throughout the year. I'm excited to tell you that a significant portion of this is never before heard insights from Dealertrack, and then some of it's a little repetitive. You can't win them all, but we have to pull you in and then make you listen to us again. We also have exceptional transitions on our PowerPoint this year. If it is lagging, go with it, but it's really perfect. Thank you, Claris. So for anyone who doesn't know, there's a bit of a fraud problem in auto. I don't know if it's too soon to be making jokes about it yet, but there's fraud in auto. There's 1 in 5 frauds are identity related, and everybody knows this. Dealertrack has been at your door. Other market leaders have been at your door talking about all of the solutions we have for IDV. This is not an IDV conversation, don't worry. The other 4 buckets of fraud are comprised of income fraud, document signature forgery fraud, our bust-out fraud that a number of panelists already spoke to, and then other, the dreaded other bucket that everything else falls into. But what all fraud has in common is what? And we will make this collaborative. Does anyone want to guess what all fraud has in common? The misappropriation of information, whether it's your identity information, whether it's making your income look just a little bit better so that you get that approval, that clean approval with no POI that you're looking for. The misappropriation of information ties together all of the types of fraud. Now, the average consumer, come on transitions, work with me. The average consumer is going to visit 2.1 individual rooftops for every car purchase that they make. Each one of those rooftops is going to submit, on average, 2.6 credit applications to get that person into a car. So I'm going to pick on the audience here just to make this a real-life statement, and I'm going to use Miss Jackie Barker. If anyone doesn't know Jackie Barker from Key Loop, she is like speaking to sunshine. There is always a smile. She is extremely motivated. She has a beautiful podcast called Drive Time. Let's pretend that Jackie's in the market for a new car. Jackie is going to, and we're going to round down, visit 2 rooftops. It could be 2 different manufacturers. It could be franchise and indie. She's likely to visit 2 rooftops. Each one of those rooftops that Jackie visits, she's likely to share some of her PII, and it's likely going to turn into no less than, and we're going to round up for this one, 3 credit applications. This means that when Jackie's buying a car, there's a chance that 6 applications will exist in the ecosystem for that one car purchase. That's a lot of data. Damn. The B. 1.2 billion unique data elements at any given moment is what passes through Dealertrack's gates because someone like Jackie is buying a car, and it's yielding those 6 unique credit apps. Jackie, are you buying a car? Because there's no dealers here. This isn't the vibe. Okay. Reach out to her if you've got good rates and incentives right now. But so 1.2 billion data elements. What Dealertrack is in the unique position of is at the intersection between consumers buying cars from dealers, submitting applications to lenders. We started analyzing that 1.2 billion unique data elements and really wanted to hone in on 2 specific areas, and they're behavioral based. What are consumers doing when they're shopping between rooftops? And what are dealers doing when they're shopping between lenders? We all want to hope that when Jackie walks in, she shares the exact same information about herself with each one of those rooftops. She doesn't fib about her income. She doesn't lie about her mortgage payment. We want to hope that she is being truthful and honest, and that both of those dealerships are getting an accurate representation of Jackie. But on the exact same side, for the lenders in the room, which is the majority of you, what is the dealer behavior when the dealer is shopping between each of you for Jackie? Is any of those elements on that application changing, and not because Jackie indicated it, but because we are doing some misappropriation of data? So 1.2 billion data elements at any given moment, and we really wanted to focus on those 2 behavior elements of what are consumers doing shopping between dealers and dealers shopping between lenders. We began to analyze data. And I'm not going to say that it's done in this real sophisticated way, but we started looking and said, what's the best way for us to determine any of these behavior elements? Dealertrack began running a series of scenarios on 100% of our credit applications that go through our gates. So if you are submitting for credit on Dealertrack, we have written a number of things such as, has this mortgage changed? Has their income changed? Is this applicant previously funded? And we run 100% of our portfolio through this set of rules to see what type of scenario scorecard comes out. And this is meant to start pulling apart and pulling on those threads of the behaviors that are happening between consumers when they're shopping amongst roofs and dealers when they're shopping amongst lenders. We ended up deriving 14 unique scenarios that cover our portfolio. Now, I don't want anyone to think that we believe we know it all, because we don't. We, in fact, don't have the whole market share. There's also another behavior. Any dealers in the room, put your earmuffs on, please. There's also another dealer behavior, which is perhaps the hypothesis that if I submit one credit application through one portal and another credit application through another portal, no one's going to connect those dots. We're very lucky that we have other family members in our business, like our CMS collateral management. What we did on top of running those scenarios on our Dealertrack data was we supercharged our data set and started looking at the registration data that now goes through our CMS business. So now this includes consumer and vehicle information that might have gone through another portal that we can tap into to widen our net and ensure that we are seeing more of that ecosystem. So to lay the groundwork here, I pulled fresh data from Dealertrack, as fresh as I could. I had to prepare for this, so I couldn't do it like up to last night. But I looked at December 20th, 2025 to January 20th, 2026, 30 days of data. We can all agree, probably non-peak, has the most national holidays in it. This should be our smallest data set to look at in those 30 days. And I started slicing and dicing this data to see what patterns and things I could pull out of it. Of every application that flowed through Dealertrack's gates in that 30-day period, 33% of them triggered one or more of those 14 scenarios that we had derived. Now, some of you in the room have a lot more understanding of these scenarios that we've developed, but for those who don't, they are not all equal. Some of these scenarios are meant to simply inform you of information that you might want to consider as you're rendering a credit decision, whereas others are clear indications of misappropriation, and they should require either additional diligence, some type of secondary process, or perhaps an adverse selection on this application. Although the 33% kind of includes all of them, even the informational ones or the really tangential ones, 33% is a significant portion of our book. Now, the next thing that I did as part of this slice is, what else can we pull out of this 33%? What is making any part of this portfolio unique? So the next thing that we started looking at was a little bit around geography. So I looked at creating, and I don't know how to word this, the top 35 of the best of the worst. Which retailers have the most infractions of our scenarios tripping? Do we have a rooftop pattern? So what we did was, and I'm sure you can all imagine, not all dealers have the same scale of credit applications. A dealer might submit 2 credit applications in that 30-day period, and if one trips a scenario, they're going to count at 50%. We removed those out of this equation for the purpose of this data set. We looked at our high-performing rooftops who are in the thousands of applications in that 30-day period, and we created what we call our top 35. These are either your incredibly unlucky dealers who have had the worst consumer clients walk in, or they might have been doing a lot of typos in their credit applications in those 30 days. What we determined, and this should not be a huge surprise for anyone in the room, the largest area of infraction were retailers based out of Edmonton, Alberta. Crickets, because no one's like, whoa, didn't I see that coming? But 40% of the rooftops in that top 35 are a bannered franchise roof. This is a critical moment in time where we're all talking about our IDVs, our AMLs, our compliance, tightening up credit adjudication, and we have heard the whispers of, indies first. When we look at the scenarios that we are seeing, we have a high population of our franchise bannered roofs hitting our triggers just as much, if not more, than indies. In fact, when I remove that top 35 and I look at the whole portfolio in those 30 days, 37% of the entire portfolio was a bannered franchise roof. Now, I don't want to scare manufacturers in the room, John Lee staring right into my soul. There are some manufacturers out there who are doing exemplary. Their retailers are perfect. They are under 1%. They are under 0.01%, which means the 40% that we're seeing are localized to some OEMs. Some retailers, some brands. And I don't want to scare everyone because we're not going to tell you who they are, but if you want more information, you know how to contact Dealertrack. Okay, what else can I tell you about what ran in those 30 days? Is there anything we can tell you about asset distribution? Well, from an asset standpoint, the next thing we did was compared the amount of credit applications by asset that triggered a scenario against how many did we actually see in that period of time. So if you look here, auto, that 30-day window we analyzed of December 20th, 2025 to January 20th, 2026, 33% of the entire auto book triggered one of our scenarios. So if you'll agree with me, that's right on benchmark, if that's what we're seeing. But if we look somewhere like small leisure, 44% of all of the small leisure applications triggered a scenario, which is arguably higher than our benchmark of 33%. Which is almost like I segued into the next component of this. Two-car households. How many people have a two-car household? It is not uncommon. Jackie, it's not really that collaborative. It's not that unheard of that people have two vehicles. Sure, during COVID, a lot of people went down to one, but two-car households are not unheard of. Also, the idea of a luxury asset, those small leisures that we saw that are triggering higher than others. In terms of small leisure, someone might be buying a jet ski and a trailer alongside their new truck. This is not indicative of fraud. But we've heard a number of panels talk about bust outs and the consideration of what if this consumer has recently funded a loan, unbeknownst to you receiving this new credit application. That feels like fraud. This is not them buying a trailer and a boat and an RV and a truck. This is them actively distributing those applications in a way that they know will not report on their bureau yet. Oh, I'm moving too fast. I definitely am moving too fast. So when we looked at that 30-day period, 3% of our applications of that original 33% were part of the applicant previously funded. That means that a total number of applications equating to 3% means the average amount of finance on Dealertrack is $46,000. If we now multiply that and do some math for those who don't have a calculator out, that's $202 million associated to just that 3%. That we were live, real time, upon credit submission, able to determine that this applicant was previously funded. Now, it's not as scary as that, though. In a previous activity using 2025 spring data, listen, I'm not the data expert, but it sounds like I am. This is much nerdier than it is. But using that data set, we then took a look at our repossession data from our CMS business. And we wanted to correlate and see if, are we seeing these signals directly correlating to outcomes? Of the applications that triggered an applicant previously funded, 40% of them were in repossession within 60 days. So for those who aren't experts at math, the 40% of that 202 million is still 80 million. Now, what else can I tell you about this data set? I mentioned that not all flags are equal. Some are going to be trying to warn you off of making a credit decision, and others are simply going to be trying to warn you and alert you to maybe do some more diligence. Some of the other flags that we looked at against our repossession data were individual performance of likelihood of repossession within those 6 months, depending on what has triggered. In this example, this is home ownership type changed. So imagine this is someone who said, I rent, and it's $2,500 to lender 1. And then lender 2 gets this application, and now they're a homeowner free and clear. I bet you that affordability looks pretty good. I bet you might waive income, especially if they can super duper afford it. Similarly, we looked at 3 other flags, all with varying factors of repossession within those first 60 days, depending on which flags were triggered. Now, you might think that this is individual flag power, but there is also the power of stacking these scenarios. In an application where all 4 of these triggered, we are now at 22.9% times higher likelihood of repossession within those first 60 days. This is a bit of a downer data talk, eh? We had to end on real fraud. Gary's here because I know I'm wrapping up on time. Oh, sure am. If you are an OEM and everything that I just told you scares you, it should, but we can help you. If you're a lender and you're looking to understand ways that you can tighten up adjudication, or maybe understand if, hey, am I maybe getting abused on income adjustments more than my peers? Do I need to look at my individual policies to understand if maybe my dealers are focusing on me for a certain reason? These can help you. This can't help dealers. We hope this year, at some point, to deliver a small set unique for dealers to also aid them in empowering and understanding about that behavior of consumer shopping between stores. Not all of this is about dealer behavior. I want to preface that. A lot of this has to do with Canadian consumers misappropriating information when they're walking into rooftops. But I think John Conto said it kind of best. We can't really do this all alone. This has to be the industry. I would ask all of you to read this out loud to me and like scream it like we're doing a little bit of a chat, but together we connect better, protect smarter, and perform stronger. And that is what our data analysis is meant to do. This product is only the tip of the iceberg for us. I mentioned 1.2 billion data elements, and we chose 14 scenarios. We are actively talking to you for feedback, making determinations within new market segments, tinkering on what those rules bring in, all to ensure that we can give you tangible, actionable insights. Thank you.